As you've seen in the title of the video, my personal favourite Kingdom Hearts Superboss is the Lingering Will from Kingdom Hearts 2. Despite some other Superbosses in the franchise, such as Yuzora in Kingdom Hearts 3, getting very close to the quality of the Lingering Will, none of them have been able to top it in my personal opinion. I think the simplest way for me to describe why I like this boss so much is by using the same analogy I used in the video about Mysterious Figure. Despite there being some small flaws to the fight, I think overall it's a brilliant display of what you've learnt across the whole game, even if some mechanics such as magic and drive forms get used much more in this fight than a mechanic like a summon or a limit would. Obviously physical attacks are very important as they are in every numbered Kingdom Hearts game, but despite that, this boss really teaches you how to combo effectively. Considering the Lingering Will itself is actually invincible until you reach his punish window, every opportunity you do get to attack must be very efficient, or else you'll be dragging out the boss fight for much longer than you need to. If you're only able to get in one full combo every time you attack, then the damage you deal to the Lingering Will itself will be very low, simply due to its unique mechanic of full armor, meaning that every time you attack, you actually need to hit in several combos to get back to what the regular damage output that Sora does is. Here is an example of what I'm talking about. With every hit that Sora does, I'm essentially dealing tick damage until I'm able to pull off Explosion as my finisher, and then my damage output goes back to what it normally would be on every other enemy. While seemingly tricky for newcomers of the boss fight, the Lingering Will has the highest revenge value out of every boss in KH2, that being a value of 25, meaning that if anything, you get the most time to combo him before he's able to retaliate. For once, magic is actually useful when fighting a Superboss outside of Cure. Most magic can be used against the Lingering Will, and it's particularly useful if you want to damage him at a range, or just to remove the magic curse he can cast on you throughout this fight. Drive form is your most vital asset in this fight outside of physical attacks in Cure, especially Final Form and Limit Form. Final Form is very good for damage, allowing you to get rid of almost 4 to 5 health bars off the Lingering Will, and Limit Form allows you to use your limit attacks in conjunction with regular combos to create very long combo strings, as well as having powerful finishers such as Zantetskin. Even the weaker forms such as Valor and Wisdom get some use in this fight simply because drive forms restore all your HP and MP upon use, allowing the player to use them like an elixir that only costs 3 drive bars. Summons and limits are actually pretty useful for this fight too. Limits can actually be used to start your combo chains on the Lingering Will, and summons themselves can deal a bit of damage or support you. For example, I think Genie is pretty useful for this fight, simply because he gives you a safety net on some health when you take damage and you get to 1 HP. Even then, some of those mechanics aren't necessary to win the fight, allowing you to approach it with whatever you're comfortable with. While it would be a challenge, it is possible to defeat this boss using only your physical attacks in Cure, as long as you're good at dodging the attacks that he throws out and blocking them if you can't dodge them. This fight forces you to know how the combat system of Kingdom Hearts 2 works as a whole, and how to use it to its full potential, which is why I think it's so enjoyable. Another thing to note is that because this is the ultimate superboss of KH2, it is a challenge even for veteran players who have played the game a lot. So if you're a newcomer and you feel as if this boss is extremely difficult, don't worry. Even those who have fought the boss several times still struggle with it on occasion. Beyond the combat of this boss fight, the story relevance and music are brilliant as usual. Like the unknown in Kingdom Hearts 1 and the mysterious figure in Birth by Sleep, you're put up against an unknown enemy, but this time you're also thrown into an unknown arena that you have no knowledge of prior to this battle. The only link that the Lingering Will seemingly has initially to the plot of Kingdom Hearts 2 is that he also knows who Xehanort is, while also elaborating more that there are other Keyblade wielders past Sora, Riku and Mickey, as shown in KH2's first secret ending. With both the boss being an unknown character and the environment we're in being unknown, it really does let the player imagine what this could potentially lead to in future Kingdom Hearts games. The music in this boss fight is also superb. While I personally prefer the Birth by Sleep version for its more tragic tone within the context of that game's plot, Yoko Shimomura still presents the idea of a fallen hero perfectly in this track, making it one of my favourite battle tracks in the whole series. While the fight is for the most part very well designed, there are a few flaws I would like to bring up about it. In the complete opposite nature to how this boss is meant to be designed, the fight itself is very exploitable. There have been several exploits found over the years, but the most common one, and arguably the best one, is known as Fenrir looping. You unlock the Fenrir Keyblade by defeating Sephiroth back at Hollow Bastion, and as long as you use this Keyblade alongside your negative combo abilities while disabling your combo pluses and air combo pluses, you'll be able to loop the Lingering Will by constantly using your air finisher. Because the boss staggers every time you hit him with a finisher, you're able to loop the boss over and over again, hitting him with this finisher, even though full armor may reactivate at certain points in the fight. While the method is convenient for those who just want to get their trophy or get their golden crown for their 100% save file, it does unfortunately take away from the challenge of the boss and make it feel quite pointless. The boss is also quite unforgiving when it comes to unreactable moves. This is most common with his whip, but when you're damaging him in a combo and he switches phases, he tends to use the whip almost instantly, which is almost impossible to react to for the average player. Here's an example of this happening in one of my attempts. I'm able to get 2 full combos in on the Lingering Will, but he retaliates instantly despite me not hitting his revenge value because he was changing to his final phase of the fight. Now that I've discussed the positives and negatives of this fight, I would like to go on to a similar segment like my Mysterious Figure video and discuss how to beat the boss. I'm going to be giving you some general tips for this fight, whether you're using the exploit or not, while also giving you some general prerequisites you want to have before you attempt the boss. For starters, you want to be max level before you attempt this boss, simply so you have the highest stats you can have without using stat boosts, and so you have all your abilities unlocked for this fight. You also want to have all your drive forms at level 7, so you're able to use 9 full drive bars when you activate a drive form, and so you also have all your traversal abilities at their max level. Make sure you go into this fight with your best defense items and your most powerful Keyblades or Fenrir if you're using the exploit. And finally, stock up on ethers and elixirs so you can restore MP whenever you like, and so you can also restore HP without having to use your magic. Firstly, I'll be discussing how to defeat this boss with the exploit, simply because it's much easier to explain than the regular fight is. For this, you want to have some prerequisites in regards to abilities and items, which I'll be showing you now. As explained earlier, you need to unlock the Fenrir Keyblade, which is obtained by defeating Sephiroth at Hollow Bastion. This allows you to get an extra negative combo that you won't unlock with just your base abilities. Equip the negative combo ability you gain from leveling up, while disabling your air combo pluses and your combo pluses. Also unequip all finishers you have so you're able to keep the Lingering Will in a loop more easily. And for Donald and Goofy, you want to disable all their limits and attacks with the exception of Donald Cure and Fantasia. Also equip your auto limit for Donald to save you having to go to the menu in the middle of the fight. Once you're in the fight, it's as simple as needing to find an opening to use Comet, where it will stagger the Lingering Will, and from there, once he lands, you're able to start the loop of staggers by using your finisher. You must be using your air finisher, as if you use your ground finisher, you give him time to recover and retaliate to your moves. To use it quickly, you can just short hop, or you could disable high jump, but it's not really necessary to do that when you can just short hop and attack. Also, it's advised to try and keep him in a circular motion, as if he runs to any of the pillars in the battlefield, or any of the invisible walls at the edges of the battlefield, he'll be able to retaliate and recover. So the best way of doing this is just moving your analog stick every time you attack him, so it keeps you in a sort of circular motion, and so he can't escape the loop. If you've got everything going, there's a very low chance of you actually failing this method, so as soon as you start the loop, and as long as you keep it going, there's a highly likely chance you will win on that attempt. Now onto the actual fight. Simply because the battle regularly is longer than with the exploit, I won't be going over everything in depth, but just enough so where you get a general understanding of how to beat the boss. Just for reference, before I begin, this is the loadout I personally use on this fight. You can use either Decisive Pumpkin or Ultima for your regular form, but I just prefer Ultima. During the first phase, he'll stick to a set of patterns, so you'll be able to tell what he's doing if he's using the bike or if he's using Rising Sun. You also want to capitalise on every time he's able to be attacked with Final Form, because Final Form is able to do the most damage, especially if you use its aerial combo. But if you're not able to, a regular combo is just fine. As long as you're using Explosion, you should be able to get in 3 full combos. The second phase has the same logic as the first, where he will stick to one set of patterns for his attacks until you're able to get him into his third phase. Occasionally he will just disappear and release these floating things that will shoot plasma at you. If you just glide, you'll be able to avoid them. At 6.5 HP bars left, the Lingering will enter his final phase where he can now use his Desperation move. The first part of his Desperation move is easily avoidable with glide, and for the most part his second one is, but there are still times where you can get caught by it. And for his third phase, it's easiest to just reflect the flurry of attacks that are incoming, or you can just tank the damage out as long as you have second chance. He is always open to attack after this move, so if you're able to, unless you're too high in the air to actually get down to the ground in time, capitalise on it with either final form or your regular combos as you have in the rest of the fight. And as long as you're able to do this consistently, once you've got him into his final phase, you should be able to beat the boss. So that is about all I have to say. As with the last video, I will have the cheese strategy and the actual win of this boss fight in the description. So yeah, that's about it. See ya.